Hey everyone, welcome back to the deep dive into the witch's path to recovery. That's right, we're back here again talking about a magical approach to healing and transformation. And if you're catching this for the first time, please know that we've got a couple more of these episodes that are out there that are going to explore more about this particular path to recovery. And, we're back here pretty much every month. So, stay tuned, like, subscribe, all that kind of great stuff. And we're gonna dive into this. I just want to pause. I'm being called to pause and just say, what do we mean by recovery, right? Because you might be wondering that. Are we talking about recovery from alcoholism, recovery from drug addiction? Are we talking about recovery from trauma and eating disorder? What are we talking about when it comes to recovery? And my dears, we are talking about anything that you might be recovering from. That is your choice. This path to recovery can be used for anything from addiction, drug addiction, food or substance or eating disorders, trauma, codependency, sex and love addiction, you name it, anything can fall into this path. It's up to you to decide. Nobody gets to determine your recovery but you. All right. We're going to start off just by doing a little quick introduction to myself. My name's Sunshine. My sobriety date from alcohol is October 9th, 2019. So we've got over 5.5 years. But I also like to say that I'm not just a recovering alcoholic, I'm a recovering workaholic, perfectionist, control freak. And now I'm starting to really work through disordered eating and this body dysmorphia that I have. This relationship that I have with this physical body. And I'm using all of these steps, all of these tools to work through this. And I'm going to share one today that really hit me hard this past week. So, yeah, my name's Sunshine. And I'm so excited that you've invited me onto your journey. Let's just start first by taking 3 slow, deep breaths. Grounding ourselves in this moment, in this present time, settling ourselves, and just releasing ourselves from anything that might not be serving us. I'd just like to remind you that it's important that when we set aside time to watch something like this or listen to something like this, that we give ourselves the space and the time to do so. These 3 slow, deep breaths while this candle has been lit is your reminder to yourself that this time is a gift. Now let us start with the witch's version of the Serenity Prayer. O divine universe, please grant me the power of water to accept with ease and grace all of the things that I cannot change, the power of fire to invoke the courage to change the things that I can, the power of air for the clarity to know the difference between these, and the power of the earth to stay grounded in my highest vibrational path. For it is that highest vibrational path that is going to lead you towards transformation, that is going to lead you through your healing journey, that is going to bring you the life in recovery that you are meant to be living. We have, over the course of the past couple of months, started to explore the witch's 13 steps to recovery. And I'm switching it up a little bit today because I was called to, because spirit led me to, because I think I needed this and there's somebody out there that needs this. So today we're going to be exploring something new that we haven't talked about yet, and that's the witch's frequency of acceptance. If you have ever been around a 12-step program, around any of the tables at AA, you may be familiar with the acceptance prayer. And this prayer to me was always a very beautiful addition as I stepped into recovery from alcoholism in a 12-step program. I really thought it was beautiful, but there were pieces of it that once again didn't necessarily speak to the witch inside of me. So I took and revised the acceptance prayer and turned it into the witch's frequency of acceptance, meaning that when we actually step into this place of acceptance, right, this vibrational frequency, that particular moment, we're able to start to transmute lower vibrational emotions, lower vibrational states of being into a higher vibrational, right? And that is a huge, beautiful gift that we have as a witch, is to take something that is not serving us and turn it into something that is. So you may be asking, well, actually, we're going to go back. Why now? I skipped this. Why now? There is this collective experience of grief that I've been hearing a lot of lately, right? So as of right now, as recording, we're at the end of June, June 29th, 2025. Okay. And so if you're watching this near that time, you may be feeling and experiencing that. If you're watching this at some other time, you still may be in a state of grief. The reality is that grief is not just experienced when we lose a loved one. Grief is experienced whenever it is that we are going through a major change in our life. And in recovery, it is so common that things will begin to shift, they will begin to change. So when we are welcoming something new into our life, we are often having to let go of something else. And the grief process will be present. There will be a whole slew and a mix of emotions. It's just how it is, right? Changing a job, moving, like literally picking up and moving your home, right? Wherever you may live. Ending a relationship. Maybe there are friends or individuals that are no longer serving you, maybe no longer going to or participating in a certain activity, whatever it may be, right? In recovery, we often take a look and we reflect and we say that these people, places, things, or situations are no longer aligned with the life that we want to be living. So this process is ripe with grief. And right now, from a collective perspective, there is a lot of grief that is being experienced. And if you're listening to this at any other time, I trust that there is a synchronistic point here. There's a synchronicity that you may also be experiencing grief in some way, shape, or form. So what exactly is the frequency of acceptance? What does this mean, right? So again, you heard me talk about emotional states. And, this isn't necessarily the video, but every single emotion that we experience, all the way from anger, shame, guilt, self-loathing, up to joy, happiness, peace, and contentment, all of these things have a frequency as to which they vibrate, right? And I want you to just think about this for a moment. When we're in a state of sadness or sorrow, we almost feel a little bit heavy. We may be a bit more tired, a bit more fatigued. Our body may feel heavy. We may be slower, right? We may be foggy headed. We might not have a lot of clarity, right? But when we're in a state of peace, joy, euphoria, we often feel lighter, more exuberant, right? Our body may actually feel more energized. That is an example of these emotions having a frequency associated to them, like a vibrational frequency. So the frequency of acceptance is this vibrational alignment with what is happening for us, right? Not what we wish to avoid or what we try to control. Uh, Not these things that we're trying to maybe manipulate into how we believe that it should be. Okay. Because the reality is, if we're going through recovery, we are still a little bit clouded as to how things should be. Once upon a time, we lived a life where we were making decisions by our intellect, so to speak, and it led us down a path of addiction, codependency, dis-ease, right? And so we must shift a lot of that. And the biggest way that we can shift is this frequency of acceptance, of accepting the path back to ourselves means a change from where we are today. And when we resist changes around a person, around a place, around a thing, around a situation, we are going to disconnect from peace. We are going to create more pain and more suffering. We are going to make life more difficult for ourselves. Often what I say to people when we talk about like why things are so hard, I ask them, what choices are you making? Because if we're living a hard, difficult, challenging and life of suffering, it is only due to the choices that we have or have not made, actions we've not taken. Nothing, absolutely nothing happens in the universe by mistake. The universe is always conspiring in our favor. And sometimes this is a really hard thing for people to understand, right? Because there are some really shitty things that have happened in life, really shitty things that have happened in this world, right? And that doesn't mean that they're pleasant. That doesn't mean that they're amazing, but it means there is some greater plan, right? Whether it's believing in karma and it's a karmic, kind of path, whether it's believing in, the butterfly effect and something needing to take place in order to bring or transition something else. On the grand scheme of things, it's hard. It's hard sometimes to believe in this. It's hard to think that we might be fired from our job for a reason. It's hard to think that somebody breaks up with us for a reason. It's hard to think that somebody's taken from us unexpectedly for a reason. It's hard. And you get mad and you get angry. And that's okay. That's part of the grieving process, that anger, losing something, you know? But it's what happens afterward that truly matters. As far as why, I've shared a bit of why this is so important and critical in recovery, right? But I want to emphasize this and make sure I really hit home with this. Resistance to change is the root of suffering. I'm going to say this again. Resistance is the root of suffering. When we are truly avoiding, neglecting, ignoring, resisting some type of change, some type of action, even some type of like inaction, like stopping to do something, right? It is the root of suffering. The interesting thing is we can almost become like addicted to that suffering, thinking that we're only worthy of pain, only worthy of suffering, right? Getting caught in this very chaotic, low vibrational pattern. Okay? It requires change to see something different. And that's what I mean by acceptance isn't passive. It's a conscious act of spiritual power. You have to make a conscious decision. You have to say, I am going to stop this. I am going to do this. I'm going to do this as my next step. I'm going to ask for this person to do X. You have to take and make a conscious act in order to step into the frequency of acceptance. Sometimes it's as simple as changing the perspective that you see something as. And this allows us, right, to stop fighting, stop being resistant, stop being a victim, and to start healing, start feeling better, to start feeling peace, calm, wholeness. Which may have you wondering, right? Because kind of simple to understand, but let me give you some examples of when you're out of alignment, when you are in that place of resistance, that place of suffering, that place of pain, right? You could probably think of some of the top of your head, but we're going to be very clear about this, right? Speaking of head, mental signs, okay? Because we're going to look at the mind, the body, and the spirit. Obsessing about fixing others or obsessing about fixing something about yourself. You're not in a place of acceptance. Ruminating on the past or rehearsing worst case features, or just ruminating and repeating, like, well, if this happens, then I'm going to do this, 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 and this. And if this happens, this, and this, right? Inner judgment loops towards yourself or towards others. I'm in one of these. I'm not going to lie right now, right? I was very, very strongly hurt recently. And I keep wondering and keep wondering. And this is something that I'm actively working on right now. Like, what did I do wrong? Like, what did I do so that I could fix something? Right? Rather than just accepting. Yes, I may be sharing this with you, but I am still in my own recovery journey. So I'm really working on this inner judgment loop, trying to give myself grace, trying to say, it's okay. You're grieving. This is painful. It does suck. Perfectionism or black or white thinking and white thinking, right? So this has to be this way, or it is only this way or that way, and there's no in between, right? Um, I get into this sometimes with my house. I have a tendency of wanting things like a certain way, right? It's a little OCD, but to me, it's a bit of that addict behavior creeping in too, that perfectionism, that control. And I'll just be like, "Ugh, why isn't this like this? Why isn't that like this? Or God, I wish somebody would just clean this up and move this." And I'm like, whoa, really? You know, it's robbing me. It's creating suffering. And that's not being in a frequency of acceptance. The last mental sign is resistance of feedback or new perspective. If you are resisting to see things in a different fashion, right? So we go back to that ruminating. That ruminating can be helpful if you are trying to see things from a different perspective. If you are not, if you are resistant to it, if you get angry about it, if you get bullheaded about it, right? That is another sign. Spiritual sign, right? The very first one is it's fine, everything's love, everything's light. you know uh I'm just like right now, like not accepting grief, like, oh, it's just is how it is, that person hurt me and they just, like, hurt people, and not accepting, like, no, I'm fucking pissed, I'm mad, I'm angry, I'm hurt, I'm sad, right? If you're feeling disconnected from your intuition or guides, right? If you are truly feeling like you can't trust, doubting your spiritual path, doubting your gifts, stepping into this path, the witch's path to recovery, and then like teetering back out of it, like, oh, this isn't where I'm supposed to be. Like, this again is this not being in this frequency of acceptance. Another one is comparing your healing to another's journey, and I think sometimes this can be hard because sometimes we're also struggling with connection, those of us in recovery. And when we do start to connect with other people that are in recovery, we're often not fully healed. We're not at this place of true acceptance. And so it's really easy to step into this place of comparison, of judgment, right? Thinking that they're doing their recovery better than we are. Oh, they look like they've got their stuff together. Right, I will tell you this. No. Most of us in recovery are still working recovery. And if you're not able to admit that, You might be doing some spiritual bypassing. The other last one here is resisting ritual or numbing through overdoing spirituality. Meaning being so ingrained, so involved into it, right? Like this complete kind of like a black and white. You're either like not going to do anything or you're just all in, right? You like start buying the supplies and writing all the ritual and you're doing it every day and this and that, and then you like end up in some place of shame or guilt because oh my God, you got sick and you couldn't actually do it, right? It's another way of not being into that frequency of acceptance. And of course, if none of those have resonated, maybe some of these will. The physical sign, right? This is chronic tension, tension in the shoulders, in the jaw. I've been noticing because things have been really tough for me in the last like couple of days. I was literally noticing last night that I think I'm clenching my jaw. I have a retainer for when this happens, and I was like, I gotta go look for that, as I'm trying to sleep. Fatigue that isn't resolved by rest, like getting a night's sleep and still being tired. Shallow or held breath, that's another one. Compulsive behavior, scrolling, cleaning, fixing, working. And then any type of changes in your sleep or appetite when you face discomfort, right? Um, I do struggle with insomnia when I get into like these real, like energetically difficult places. And I know what I'm going through is meant to be gone through. That I do know. But that doesn't mean that it's easy. That doesn't mean that it's comfortable. That doesn't mean that I'm perfect at navigating it, right? You know, I'm in essence somebody has left my life that I loved very, very much and hurt me incredibly when they did so. Like like betrayal. And so I'm in this place of needing to heal and constantly practice the transmutation, practice stepping into that frequency of acceptance right now. Speaking of transmutation, this is the witch's work, right? When we are casting a spell or we are setting intentions, we can do so for many purposes. But when we do so to focus on bringing ourselves into our highest vibrational self, into our highest vibrational path, releasing that's not serving us in order to welcome in what can, that is an act of transmutation. It's an alchemical process to, in essence, turn our lead into gold, our pain into happiness, right? A witch in recovery recognizes suffering as a teacher, not a permanent reality. We're able to see this pain, see this suffering, see these low vibrational emotions, and transmute it. Turn it into something that is different, that can serve us, that we can learn from, that we can grow from, that we can feel better from. This frequency teaches us how to use what hurts us as fuel for growth. That's what it does. Now I'm going to share with you 10 ways to transmute some of these common scenarios through acceptance. And at the very tail end of this, I'm also going to let you know where you can find the whole list, the whole write-up, as well as some other tools that may help and support you. But of course, let's start with those 10 ways. As I'm talking about these, I want to remind you that you have an act of acceptance in here. An act of acceptance. That act of acceptance is this shift in perspective. Okay? And the first one is accepting that judgment is often a constructive truth. Often a constructive truth. The reality is when somebody is casting judgment, even when you are casting judgment on yourself, there is always a truth in it, a nugget of truth, right? If somebody is telling you that you are controlling, right, there's a nugget of truth in there. And maybe that nugget of truth is your experience knows that there is a valid way for them, a person to do something. Maybe you walk into the kitchen and you're like, you're not chopping those vegetables correctly, right? There's a constructive truth that could be in there. The reality is maybe they're not guarding their fingers and they're putting their fingers in harm's way. But at the end of the day, that's for them to find out too. Judgment is often a sign of a constructive truth. So when somebody is placing a judgment on you, or you're placing a judgment on yourself, you can accept that there is some nugget of truth in there and seek for that truth. Seek for that truth to see what it can teach you and how it can help you grow. Failure is a sign of a new opportunity. Life is a series of mistakes because that is how we learn and grow. So every failure that you experience, you can accept that that failure is opening a door for you to try again, to try something new, to try something different, to let go what you were trying in order to make room for something else. Mistakes are never a bad thing. Failure is never a bad thing, right? The only way that we can not transmute failure is by not accepting that there's a new opportunity on the other side of it. Fear of change can also feel like excitement. Our physiological response to fear is the exact same physiological response as excitement. Our hands can get wet, our heart can start to race, our stomach might start to flip, right? You think about it. You don't like public speaking and you've got to do a big speech on stage in front of 1,000 people, right? Your hands start to sweat. Maybe you start to sweat. You're wiping your brow. Your heart's starting to race. Maybe you got a little bit of a frog in your throat, right? You know those feelings, that fear. Well, guess what? The next day, you may be standing in line at your favorite roller coaster, just absolutely ecstatic. Can't wait. It's first time it's opened. Guess what? You might get a little bit sweaty, your heart might start racing, a little bit choked up, a little bit of stomach flipping. When you can start to shift these fears of changes, these changes that we're about to step into, and try to see them as exciting opportunities in front of you, you can shift the way that they actually are impacting you and turn that fear into something that serves you. Conformity can show the need for more diversity. Whenever you are trying to make someone else fit inside your box, right? Why can't they just do it my way? Why can't they, why can't they like what I like? Why, I want to go, uh, I want to go hiking. They never want to go hiking with me. It's usually a sign for some more diversity. Maybe you haven't asked them what they enjoy. Maybe you're actually due to do something by yourself. Maybe the universe wants you to have a solo adventure. So anytime that we find ourselves trying to fit things into a box, it's usually a sign that there's a more diverse way to see things. Imperfection is an example of the universe's divine perfection. The truth is the universe doesn't really make mistakes, right? There are things that are weird, different, strange, odd, unusual, peculiar, right? But there's no such thing as a mistake, right? The shirt today, perfectly imperfect. I thought that was funny. I didn't realize I put it on. I didn't know I was going to do this, this topic today when I put it on. I decided this afternoon I changed things. Imperfection is a beautiful thing. And when we start to understand that nothing is perfect, your judgment of perfection moves. If you start to see that the universe has things exactly as they want it, it comes with a sense of peace. Next one. Rejection emphasizes the need for protection. When somebody is rejecting you, your ideas, your suggestions, whatever it may be, there's a need for protection there. The universe is telling you that it is not meant for you, right? And it's doing so in a way maybe you don't want to understand, but in a way that you truly can understand if you see it as a need for protection. So when somebody starts to become mean, cruel, unusual towards you, right? Don't get angry. You can get hurt. Don't get angry. Get protecting. Put more protection up. Protect your energy. Protect your space. Protect your project, right? Protect the things that you're doing. Rejection emphasizes that need. Accepting that when you see this, you're being called to put more protection up. Limitations are your call for energy preservation. Accept that when you do not have the time, do not have the energy, do not have all of the things that you need, you're being called to preserve your energy. I'll give you an example. I became ill. I had a big garage sale set, yard sale scheduled for the beginning of June. And that Monday I came down sick beforehand. It was on a Saturday and I was sick, sick as a dog. Tuesday, spent the whole day in bed. Wednesday, slightly feeling better. But I had all of these things that I needed to do, or I thought I needed to do to prepare for Saturday. And I practiced the frequency of acceptances and I said, no, I need to preserve my energy. There's a reason that I need to preserve my energy, right? There's a reason that I'm getting sick and I'm being slow. And I did not freak out. Old me would have freaked out. Oh my God, I don't know what I would overstress, probably kept myself sick even longer. I was just okay with how things were. And the day turned out wonderful. Uncertainty is a sign of freedom. When we do not have certainty around a situation, that means anything is possible. Anything is possible. If we're uncertain, I'll give you a perfect example. This one pops into my head. If you're uncertain whether or not somebody's going to accept an invitation, you've invited somebody to go to dinner and they said, I'll get back to you. And you reach out and they say, I don't know, I'm still checking. That's a sign of freedom. That means up at that point right now, you could cancel. You could ask someone else to go out. You could accept some other plans, right? There's freedom in that. Responsibility for our actions can open the door to second chances. When we truly do something that might not have worked well, that maybe offended someone, that mm, just didn't work, we go back to that failure, kind of a second side of the coin to that. It can open the door for a second chance. We accept that when we actually take responsibility, we can have a second chance. People are more likely to want to engage with you, work with you, be around you if you are willing to admit when you are at fault to something. And last but not least, codependency can show us where we can be interdependent of others. The opposite of codependency is not independence, right? Because as human beings, we want to be connected to other individuals, right? But codependency is a bit of a sickness, right? We can't do something unless we have someone else around. When we start to see this happening, we can accept that there is something going on, that this person matters, that you love them, that you care about them, that you worry about them, right? And you can find the space to be independent from them and tell them, hey, I love you a whole bunch. I'm super worried about you, right? Hey, I love you a ton. I'm really concerned of some of the actions and the behaviors that I'm seeing. That interdependence now gives them the opportunity to be themselves. And they may lean into that and say, oh my gosh, I haven't seen that. You're so right. I appreciate that. Or they may throw their middle finger up at you or their two fingers and say deuces. It's okay. Accepting that codependency can show us where we can be interdependent of others is another way to transmute that situation. Now, here we go. Until I can accept that I am not on my highest vibrational spiritual path, I will continue to suffer unnecessarily. As I mentioned before, the universe is always conspiring in our favor. It should be easy to be alive. It should feel fun, exciting, enjoyable. And when we continue to make choices, regardless of how hard they are, when we continue to transmute and accept this, we will move higher and higher up that vibrational path. That path is the one that's going to lead us to a beautiful life. It's going to lead us to our purpose. It's going to put us into the position to be able to manifest. But if we don't, we will suffer. And you don't need to. All right, we're going to try this right now. Just bear with me. It's not going to take a whole bunch of time. And you could always go ahead and screenshot this and journal it with a little bit longer or pause this, right? But we're going to go ahead and choose a current frustration and ask yourself, what am I resisting? What if this is exactly as it needs to be for right now? And what's one way I could transmute this energy? That's what I did this past week. I was resisting letting this person go. I was really, really, really hurt, really upset. I found this place inside of me of really wanted to argue and, tell them off and, just be so mad, just so hurt because I was suffering. I was suffering because of the experience that I was going through. I was resisting the change of them leaving and moving out of my life. I came to some point, though, that this is exactly what is needed. I had a couple of really dear friends tell me that if they're parting ways, they must be doing so for a reason. It's opening up the door for something else. Look at all of these amazing things that you have going on, sunshine. It's making room for something else to grow. And so the way that I chose to transmute this particular energy is I've done multiple acts of protection this week. I have walked through and cleansed the house. I have set intentions for them to part ways. I have went through and smudged with cedar to provide all of the protection that I need. I've made sure and double checked that my jewelry has been sat on the selenite to cleanse it and so can continue its charge of its own protection. That's how I've chosen. So what is a current frustration that you have that you might be resisting? And how can you transmute it? Here's a little mini ritual, the candle of acceptance. I'd encourage you to light a candle of your own or just look at this one right here and speak out loud, ignoring the earful. Ah. Speak out loud what you're struggling to accept. I have been struggling accepting, allowing this person who I love very dearly to leave my life. I surrender the illusion of control and I receive this moment with open hands and a wise heart, regardless of how much pain it may cause me right now to experience this loss. It's important that you live in this frequency of acceptance. It's important that you work towards being in this frequency because it's not a one-time spell, it is a daily practice. Every single time that we are triggered is an invitation to step into the frequency of acceptance. Every contraction is a doorway in order to move forward towards change. And every moment is a choice that you can either resist that change or you can receive what is on the other side of it. You don't have to like it. You don't have to enjoy it. You don't have to celebrate it, so to speak. You just have to let it be. That's where the magic and the transformation begins. Remember, my dear friends, recovery as a witch is just different. If you've got any questions or comments, you can feel free to go ahead and drop them into the chat, reach out to me. I'd love to hear what you thought about it. I really would. And join us again next month. We're going to keep diving deeper into the recovery tools created specifically for the witch. Who knows? Maybe we'll go back to the steps or maybe we'll do something else. Either way, I'll be back here sharing with you. And in the meantime, if you are ready for more, I would encourage you to go ahead and download the Sober Witch Life mobile app. This is the only recovery app made specifically for witches by witches. And it's home of the free Sober Witches Toolkit, which is where you're going to find the frequency of acceptance. All of this frequency that we talked about in more detail, right? The whole frequency of acceptance prayer, a lovely, lovely video for you to watch, as well as all sorts of other good things in that toolkit. And if you've watched us so far and you enjoy, I would encourage you to come join us at the Awakening Hope Retreat in New Orleans, spring of 2026. This is our first ever in-person retreat. It's going to be a Thursday to a Monday. Super excited for this. We will be creating an entire ritual that we'll perform together in the city of New Orleans to help combat addiction. After that ritual is done on Saturday night, we'll spend Sunday just indulging ourselves and integrating all of the amazing work that we've done together before we part ways on Monday. So I hope to see you apply and see you again soon. Until next time, take care, my dears.